one of the main questions that I get asked for people that are new to the group, new to Pasadena, new to the area is, how can I just talk to everybody? How can I get to know everybody and let them know exactly what I do? It's really the main question. And I always say, just come, just talk to people, get to know them. We have a great speaker today, Christy. Many of you guys know her. She embodies that spirit. So you all know her. She turned into the face of Friday Coffee Meetup. We're very excited. She's a co-organizer here for Friday Coffee Meetup. You probably all know her. She was probably likely the very first person you met when you came for your first time to Friday Coffee Meetup. Christy, welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you to all the other co-organizers. Hello, Pasadena. I'm so happy to have you. Thanks for coming. Have you ever had your wires crossed? I doubt there isn't anybody in the audience who hasn't had their wires crossed at some point. This is me. Being a mechanic in Haiti, I was there on a security use case to implement vehicle tracking in our fleet there. And once we had all the fleet implemented, we brought it up out of the underground garage, and as I was testing, I was getting intermittent results. And so I had to connect people from around the world in order to look at what the solution was for this issue and get down to the root cause. The root cause ended up being a manufacturing error in one of the components that we were using within the system. And so this is me taking apart all the dashboards again and going in and rewiring that component within the system. Now, I didn't think, probably you didn't think I could get my hands dirty with the best of them, but I can. What does this have to do with where I am today? Well, like this story, metaphorically, sometimes we get our wires crossed when we try and connect with other people. Some of the ways that my wires get crossed is that I'm a shy introvert, and I also have baggage that I love to carry with me. I have insecurities, and so when I started out connecting, I didn't really know what to say or what to do when I tried to connect with people. And I also had a really hard time connecting with what I call beautiful people and bigwigs. Now, I was told to enunciate that bit because it kept sounding like I was saying beautiful people in bigwigs. Those might be intimidating too. But for me, the bigwig, the important person, right? That's where I'm challenged. The difference between networking and connecting is that networking is an activity that we undertake in order to meet new people, right? And connecting is what we do between individuals. When we get out there, we listen, we communicate, and we're truly vulnerable with one another. 4 years ago, I stopped living abroad, I stopped traveling all the time, and I settled back in U.S. to be close to my families. And I also had 2 layoffs during that time, actually, and it took a huge swipe at my ego. Connecting is an opportunity. Every time we connect with someone new, it's an opportunity to refine who we are, to clarify our voice, and connect new possibilities. Connecting is why we're all here today. We all want to connect with others. We all want to be seen and heard. By being seen, I don't mean we're dressed up nice, we look so good, we're out there showing ourselves off. I mean to truly be seen and heard. We all have an inherent desire to connect with others. Friday Coffee Meetup is a vehicle for connection. Friday Coffee Meetup, one of the original premises of it was to bring together a community and to also catalyze innovation within that community. This is what happened when I came to Friday Coffee Meetup. Well, this is what normally happens when I come to Friday Coffee Meetup. Oh, come on, we can do it. Yeah, the wires are crossed here. Give me a second. So this was me down here in the corner. I look really lonely down here, but remember, this was because I was here to build a new network. And I have some family and close friends up there in the corner that would support me for whatever adventure that I was on. And so I first came to an Innovate Pasadena Connect Week. Innovate Pasadena Connect Week is like 100 events across the city, right? Come, it's October 13th this year. And there I learned about Friday Coffee Meetup. At my first Friday Coffee Meetup, I met Robert Gonzalez, who told me about the McDermott and Bull Network. At my first McDermott and Bull Network, Alec Miller, there in the back, wasn't able to attend, but he saw my name on the list. And he reached out to me because he noticed we had a few connections in common, as well as Friday Coffee Meetup. As we got to know each other, he asked me to co-lead a networking event with him, which led to this. Us being introduced to the co-organizers of Friday Coffee Meetup and eventually being asked to become co-organizers, which led to this. More and more connections happening across the board, which started to get some attention in the community. And so Brandy Pierce and Innovate Pasadena did an article on me, which spawned another article from Pasadena Business Now and another article, which was so unusual to me because this wasn't my job. Wasn't what I set out to do. And normally I try really hard at things and I don't get recognized for them. So it was amazing. I was like, I love this. Which led to me circling back with Robert Gonzalez because I started thinking about, okay, if this is what's resonating with people, what should I actually do with it? Should I write something? And so he helped me come up with a model and a format to get that information out of my head into a book form, which led to this, me connecting more and more people as I started developing the book, bringing in people from across the different communities to take part in it, bringing in previous communities that I had been part of, also getting out to second and third connections, right? When I didn't have something I needed, I went to somebody and they connected me to a third person, which then led to this. When Brandy connected me to TEDx Pasadena and Words to Action, their sister nonprofit, I met Heather Brunold, who introduced me when I was interviewing her. She told me about Rob Cosberg and Bestseller Publishing, another company here in town. And so when I reached out to Bestseller Publishing, I started talking to them about helping me to finish my book because it was really hard and I needed someone to help me in that process. So the first time I went to talk to them, one of the first things that Rob said to me was, what's your book, or what's your business around your book? At that point, I was like, please just help me get it done. I want it to be over with. But he was right. And so he and his team have helped me to actually build the business around the book, as well as helping with the publishing and marketing of the book. What is amazing to me about this process is many of the people that you see on here that have been part of this book process, I didn't know 4 years ago, right? And through this giant ripple effect, it's been created. All of you, Friday Coffee Meetup, helped me uncross my wires. And it was so powerful to me that I wrote a book about it, right? The Confident Connector, How to Build Your Must-Have Professional Network in an Era of Job Insecurity. And built a business around it. Raise your hand if you have been part of this process with me, either being in the book, supporting me. My family has better raise their hands. Matt back there, right? Everybody who's been a part of this ripple effect and supported me, my colleagues and coworkers at work on the side there, Heather. So thank you for being part of this adventure with me and helping me to create something new. It was the friendliness and encouragement of the Friday Coffee Meetup members that helped me to keep taking that next step forward. It takes courage to show up and look someone in the eye and say hello. For some of you today, maybe it just took courage to even come here. And for some of you, right, you get energy from coming, which is the amazing thing about a community, is that we all complement each other's strengths and weaknesses, and we come together. Friday Coffee Meetup is a community of connectors. It is the community that provides the basis for collaboration between members and innovation. Some of my favorite things about this community is that it gives us this friendly, safe space to practice in. If you come here new, and as Michael said, I meet you at the front and say hello, normally what I will tell you is that we're a very friendly group. Jump into a group, say hello. We're really friendly. And we have this amazing space donated each week to us by Cross Campus, right? It's so homey and comfortable. It gives us that safe space to practice connecting in. Another thing that I really love about our community is our diversity, right? If you look around the room on any Friday, you will see students, high school, university, retired people, everyone in between across the board. We have all ages. We have all ethnicities. We have all skill sets. It's incredible to me, the diversity and the richness that we have here amongst the diversity. Friday Coffee Meetup, through that diversity, it gave me all the skills that I needed to write a book and build a business, right? We saw all the types of people, all the people raise their hands, right? These are a few of the skills that I needed to help me write a book and build a business, and I found them all through my network. We have graphic design, web development, editing, audiobook, so many people and so many types of people, right? This process also introduced me to the community leaders like Andy over there and so many others, super connectors within our group that get me to the right people that I needed to interact with. So thank you guys all for sharing your skills in this community. And just like Friday Coffee Meetup helped me to uncross my wires, these are a few tips and tricks. I go over many in the book, but these are just a few to kind of help you along in your process as you go. So this was my list. I started using it in the early 90s, and it would come with me to every networking event in the center console of my vehicle. And before each networking event, I would pull out the list, and I would read it out loud to myself, right? This was early in the mobile phone game. Like, I couldn't even pretend like I was talking to somebody for, like, anybody that was walking by. Now, at least I can pretend like I'm on the phone to somebody really important. But I would read it out loud, right? Say each question, and then try and come up with a response to that question. And I did this because I'm a shy introvert, right? When I go up and I try and meet someone new, I have a tendency to blush and sweat and feel all the blood drain from my head into my feet. So I needed to come up with a way to counteract those bodily reactions when I met someone new. And having a canned set of questions and answers helped me to do that. Because when I meet you and I start feeling that happen, my brain knows something that I can say back to you, right? It makes it easy for me. It's a reaction. That way I can listen to you and communicate with you more fully. I have a question that I love now. And if you've come here before, and sometimes during audience interaction, I ask this question. Does anyone know my question? Heather. The question is, what are you interested in or passionate about? Now, the reason I like this question is that I feel like it's a two-way question. One thing is that it gives you a really wide playing field to have you respond to me. Before, when I would connect with somebody, sometimes they'd ask me a question, and the amount of brain power that it took for me to formulate an answer that was narrow enough to fit into the question that you asked me was really challenging. So I like to give people like a really broad playing field. As well, it's a question I feel like gives back to me because you get to talk about something that you love, and I get to see you be inspired. I get to see that glimmer in your eye, and I get to see you inspire me. So I feel like it's a question that goes both ways. So coming up with a canned set of questions and answers will help you in your initial interactions with people. Secondly, something that I try and do when I'm networking is that I allow myself to take a break. Because with all you see of faces out there, it gets a little intimidating for me sometimes. So while I'm out there connecting, right, having some nice chats with you, and I start to feel my introvert shields come up and engage, I allow myself to take a break. I make my way to the ladies' room, where I gloriously shut the door, and then my introvert locks it and does a little joyous dance. And I take a deep breath. I give myself a little pep talk. You've got this. Get back there. Get out there in the game, right? And then when I'm ready, I come back and I can connect with you again more fully. Now, I'm not telling everyone they should go hide in the restroom. For the dudes, I don't know what happens in there. That might be a little awkward. But what I'm saying is allow yourself to take a break, right? Step outside. Look at the sky. Take a deep breath. Whatever pep talk that you have to give yourself, right? You're amazing. You can do this. Get back there. And then come back inside and connect with others. Another thing that we can do to make our networking more fruitful is just to get out there and meet your people, find them. We are so lucky. We live in Southern California. There is a group for everyone out there. It's amazing, right? I have a list of networking on LinkedIn for professional networking. It has legal, healthcare, venture, private equity, tech, kind of across the board. We have groups for everything. We're very lucky to have such diversity. And by networking, I don't just mean the professional ones, right? I like to salsa dance and swing dance. So when I go out and do that, it allows me to connect with others on a more informal level as well. It gives me an opportunity to connect where everybody's there for the same reason. It's a little bit more informal. So get out there, find your people, and connect with them. Every time I meet someone new, it is an opportunity for me to refine something in myself, to clarify my voice, and to connect new possibilities. When I started this process, I had no idea where it would take my life, right? I had to take a leap of faith. I had to get out there and connect and be truly vulnerable with others. And because of that, I now have a Friday Coffee Meetup community that inspires me and encourages me and helps me take that next step. And they've helped me write a book and start a business. What is going to happen when you uncross your wires? I'm excited to see what we're going to create together. Thank you.
Christy, that was amazing. We're so honored that you're part of our group and help make this happen. I mean, it's truly fantastic. She does have her book on Kindle. Please buy it. It's going to be out next month. Buy it. It's very good. We're going to open this up to Q&A. John, there you are. John's on this side. This is a great time to ask Christy questions about networking, about the group. Not a great question to tell stories about what you're doing in the bathroom when you get nervous.
Hey, Christy, that was awesome. Really proud of you.
Thanks, Gab.
Absolutely. So when did you know you were a writer?
It was one of those inadvertent things, right? And I think it was after Robert had helped me come up with a formula. I think I had a story inside of me, but until I had something tangible, right? Like I need to be able to map things out to get them outside of me. And so when he did that with me to kind of map out a framework, that's what helped me be able to take the story from the inside and put it on paper.
That's awesome. I recommend everybody reading the book. It's just really good.
Thanks, Gab.
Can you talk a little bit about your business model on how you're going to take advantage of this book? Because a lot of people write a book so that they can be considered a subject matter expert on something. I'd like to hear about
it's a work in progress right now. So on my website, so the first thing I did was I did a workbook and an audio book. And so those are joint materials that go with the book itself. And then as I go down the path, right, Rob wanted me to definitely have more and more building in the business. And that's something that's been a process for me. So we decided to go out with kind of the workbook and audiobook for now. And then eventually there'll be online courses, coaching, and things like that. So keep your eye on the website. Check out the workbook.
Now, before you decided to write a book, would you say that you were a good writer?
No. And my editors would also tell you. I have poor grammar. And so they would keep sending, edits back, and they'd be like, you did this again. And I'm like, I'm trying. I'm really trying, right? So thank goodness for editors and formatters and all those people who make us look smart.
So actually, that was going to lead to my next question, which is, I'm sure there's a lot of people here who have thought about, maybe know a lot about something and would like to write a book. And they might feel like, I'm not a writer, and kind of like you, I might not know how to write a good sentence or paragraph, or my grammar might not be that good. So what kind of advice would you give them to maybe, from an entrepreneur standpoint, to write a book? I mean, some of the things that you went through, the process that you went through when you were writing your book.
I think definitely as an entrepreneur, right? I think it can be a key piece of your portfolio. I want to point out Rob Cosberg right back there from Bestseller Publishing. He can talk you kind of through all the models that are available. I think for me, one of the things that was important to me was helping people around me, right? Networking was so difficult for me. I wrote what I wanted to have, or I wish I had when I started out. So being able to help people through that process was something that was really important to me. And then I think for businesses, right, it's just a great way to show your expertise within a community and really get your word out to people.
You've been doing the Friday morning coffee for a while. I was wondering if in this networking event you've seen any really fascinating stories of people coming together and building something like that came out of this group, or things that you're watching now bubble up.
I do get people who come to me and say, you connected me with so-and-so and we started, an activity, a business. I think individual connections, jobs happening, I think is really interesting out of this community as well. And then the innovation pieces, right? We have people who do such diverse things like you, AI and mathematics. When we connect them with other people in the group, it just lets things flourish. I don't have anything right off the top of my mind. Does anybody else have one that I'm missing right now? Michael, any of them? We get people come up to us all the time and say, thank you, introducing us or coming here. It helped us start this piece. For me, it was the book and the business.
Back here.
Christy, great presentation. And I noticed your brother has a great name, so yeah. Good. So my question is, great book and really love the content. Curious on if you have other stories you want to share and maybe put another book together.
Actually, my next book that I'm thinking of is kind of surviving a layoff or surviving a job transition. That's a really emotional, challenging thing. And so I would like to bring together kind of experts from across the board. This book, I interviewed connectors and included their stories in the book. And next time, I would actually like to have certain people do individual chapters like emotions and finance, like how do I talk to my family about this, coaching, how do I look for my next thing, how do I even know what I want to look for. So that's my next thing. And then I have traveled to more than 50 countries, and I have a lot of stories that are kind of crazy. So that might be something eventually to look at as well. But that's more personal, right? That's me being extra vulnerable.
Over here.
Is it long? So I was fascinated. Where I graduated and where I am today makes no sense. So I really liked your initial picture where you were in Haiti working on the wires. So I was curious what your background is.
Oh, dear, I'm like you. So my first degree is in aviation and business, and I started out trying to be a pilot, or I was a private pilot, and then I went to international relations, and then one of my professors that I was a teaching assistant for had a tech company. And so then I went to tech, and I worked for 6 different tech companies. I've been a charity worker for 8 years. I've done a lot of different things, and none of them match. I mean, there's no logical path at all to where I am today. Yeah.
Right here in the middle.
All right. Christy, you're so wonderful and you're so loved. It's great to see you up there.
Thanks, Matt.
Couple questions. One, you have your standard question that you ask when you network. So what's the most fascinating or horrific response you've received to that question ever? All right. And then second question that's related to that, what have you shared during networking that you wish you could have taken back because it was so embarrassing you can't believe that you told somebody that, right?
Ooh, I love this. So the most unexpected response that I got, and it wasn't to that question, which I'm really glad it wasn't to this, the what are you interested or passionate about? It was a man that I'd gotten to know very professionally dressed over quite a few months. He finally asked me what I did. told him, and then I asked him what he did, and he was an escort. And I was like, all right, okay, now I got to think of something else to say. But there was actually somebody here across campus who had an even better story because his was a porn star. So it was like, okay, the things that I wish I could take back, I think it's more not even what I think I could take back, because where I struggle is actually getting the words out. So I think my responses where I've been like stammering and trying to come up with 2 words to piece together in a sentence to like some senior executive that's super important, I wish I could take those times back more.
Over here.
I don't want to follow that question. It was too good. Christy, I read the book, loved it. I read a lot of business books. This is a good one. It's definitely worth reading.
Thanks, Eric.
One of the things I loved about the book is, some people look at networking and they think of it as icky, like, oh, I'm just meeting you to connect with you and get something out of you. And I love the way you talked about the generosity of it, actually, the connections made. I was wondering if you could share maybe a little bit about that, about how that's kind of a lot of the motivation in actually building a network out, and not just about, like, how many dollars am I going to get out of the fact that I talked to you today?
Right. I think it's truly about who you can help, right? And I've had great role models, Matt, others, like as I've come into this, right, being very clear that you are out there to help others. It's not about what they can bring to you. And so it has been kind of person by person, trying to listen to their story and seeing what I can help them with, who I can connect them to, what resource that I can give them. And I think that's what builds up the richness of my network. And I think for everyone, right, generosity is the tenet of when you're connecting with somebody. It's about them. It's not about you.
Right here in the middle.
Hi, Christy.
Hi, Jeff.
My question is, as a fellow introvert, one of the challenges that I find in any sort of networking situation is that not only is it kind of exhausting in the immediate situation, but it's a long-term process. It is continually exhausting. So you can't necessarily take a break in the bathroom on like a 5-year process.
Well, you can, but I don't recommend it.
So I guess my question really is, how do you find the ability to be able to kind of push through in like a long-term sense? Because as somebody who's known you for a long time, you've been like very diligent and consistent about moving forward, and that's something that I would struggle with.
Yeah. I think for me, it's like shifting it off of me and making it about the other person, because then it's like I'm taking care of someone or I'm hosting something, and that way it becomes about them and not about me. That helps shield my introvert a bit, and it allows me to practice my generosity. And then I think it's all the other things that come into it, right? Networking is one piece of your life and your who you are, but it's keeping all those other pieces in balance, right? It's the eating the nutritious food, even though you don't want to, and working out. It's kind of having that balance in your life to allow me to have extra to give to others.
Yeah.
Back here, Christy.
Yeah, Christy, my question is, what inspires you in your life? In other words, what is your inspiration besides connection?
Ooh, I have a lot of inspiration. A lot of them are here right now. Some of them aren't. So I'm very lucky to have people to love and people who love me. My faith, all of those things I think are really important to keep me grounded and centered and give me everything I need to overflow. Thanks.
I wanted to also compliment the book. I'm not an introvert, and I found such value from the book. It was very enlightening, the tips and the suggestions on how to even approach a group or an individual in a thoughtful, purposeful way. And I just wanted to give a shout out to the extroverts, that there's also just such tremendous value in the words you put down. So thank you, because it's helping all of us.
Thank you.
And then I also wanted to say I really appreciated your clarification between networking and connection. I found that particularly valuable, the shift in my understanding of that. And my question is, as an introvert, and now putting all of these words out there, you're going to be asked to sell the book, stand on stage, speak, talk. How much... What kind of soul searching had to go into that? How do you prepare yourself for that, mentally, physically, those sorts of things?
I mean, it definitely takes soul searching, right? Because the more, like, I tell some stories in this book that are pretty vulnerable for me, and getting those words out there for other people to see them was a lot for me to take on. So knowing, like, whenever you put something out, right, you're going to get negativity back, and just being, kind of centered and letting that roll off of you is one thing. And then preparation-wise, a lot of ego preparation, right? Like trying to minimize the ego because I know it's going to get bruised. And then for the selling piece, I'm really looking at it as I wrote what I wanted in the beginning, what would have helped me. And so looking at it from the perspective of, if it helps you, that's amazing, like, run with it. And if it doesn't help you, well, good, because then you're already an expert. So that's great. So coming at it, I think, from the perspective of helping.
Thanks. Hi, great talk. So I haven't read the book yet. It sounds like I need to. But I have 2 college-age children, one of which in particular, both of them probably could probably benefit from this, but did you write it, or do you think you wrote it in a way that it would appeal to them and they need to read it like right away because they're on the at the right age that they need to learn this soon?
I did keep it very simple, right? I tried to get some networking books previously, and it was like a 13-hour audiobook, and I'm like, oh, I can't. So I tried to keep it very short, very specific steps that you had to walk through. And I tried to put some stories in there to keep it fun. For youth, I think as well, the workbook, we tried to go with some graphics that would probably appeal to millennials. And it's a little more formatted and fun. But the book itself is very simple and easy read. And I think it reads from university onwards. Even probably younger people can benefit from that. But just trying to keep it basic, right? Like, I just need simple steps. Tell me literally what to say and literally what to do, and I'll go do that. So that's what I tried to do in this.
Mm-hmm. Hey,
Jen.
I'm really looking forward to reading the book, but could you talk a little bit more about the difference between connecting and networking, and when did that click for you in terms of that understanding and that distinction?
I think it's definitely been a process, right? When I started out in the beginning, I was definitely just networking. I was going to an event. I would bribe myself to get 10 business cards, and then I could leave and go home and eat ice cream, right? Like, it was just an activity that you have to do. Like, it was still fruitful. I got jobs out of it, right? Like, it still worked. But then connecting, I think, as I've matured and aged and had a lot of experiences where I realized the value of life and the value of each person's life. I think that has been the shift to connecting and really just being able to see people and accept them for who they are and where they're coming from, and being able to be a part of those stories what has been important to me and kind of made that shift for me from networking to connecting. Being able to connect with the person, it actually made it easier for me, right? Because I think before, when I was networking, it was just like, check, give me your card, thanks, bye. So being able to connect with people and really form relationships, it made it easier, even though it sounds harder.
Over here. Christy, of course, a great book.
Thanks, Steven.
One of the things that spoke to me in there was when you talked about, you realized that you started putting people together. You'd say, well, this person should meet that person. Can you tell us more about that? Because to me, that's a really important part about the connecting.
That's my favorite piece, right? I explain it in the book. It's like the matching game you play when you're little, when you put out all the cards, right? And you pick up the princesses and you pick up the Yodas and you put them together. Like, I love that. Like, my body has an actual reaction when I do that. Like, yay! Like, fireworks go off. So when I meet people and I find out, like, you're in healthcare AI. You're in healthcare AI. You guys are going to create something amazing together. And I have to connect you. So it's one of my favorite parts. I don't know why I get so much joy from it, but I really do. And I love to see what comes out of connecting people. If it's not like in a professional sense, but in a personal, like, you're an amazing person. You're an amazing person. Go make something amazing. Like, it's just something that I love to do.
Right here. Hey, Christy. You touched on, like, stamina a bit. And being able to have the juice or the energy to kind of network. So for me, when I'm very extroverted, and I enjoy talking to people and love learning about people. But for me, it's more I hate this this relationship piece more so because I feel like it's about the gym. Like when you want to go to you know that you have to go to the gym, but it's getting there that's hard. And then once you get there, you love it. And for me, that's how I feel about networking.
Yeah,
it's getting the energy to go. And once I get there, so I guess my question is more around how does that work for you, or how have you seen that with other people, and how do you shift your frame of mind from seeing it as something like a chore and seeing it as something that can help flourish your network or your community?
Yeah, there's a few things, I talk about in the book, like making it part of your fitness plan, like for your professional development, right? From now on, I feel like this is one of your career pillars, right? So that's an actual why it's needed, right? We have our career development, we have our career strategy, and we also have networking now as a pillar because of the gig economy and how things are shifting within the world and jobs. Networking is now one of those pillars of our careers. So there is that for us, right? Just knowing that we need to do this as part of our career itself. But then for the personal pieces, right? Like actually scheduling it in your calendar, forcing yourself to go there. What makes it easier for me is after you start doing it for a while, you start recognizing faces. And then when you recognize faces, then they become your friends. And then it's more like going to see your friends. You're still meeting new people there, but having those friendly faces like dotted throughout the mix that can kind of support you when you're having a moment, that's one thing, as well as being able to help people. I like to do that. So I look at it more as I'm hosting people, I'm trying to help them in my process, and that kind of shifts it from being the chore to being the thing I like to do. Yeah. And I get stimulated. Like my brain, I am fascinated by all your careers, right? Like you do amazing things. So when you get to tell me about them, I'm like, whoa, I wish I had that brain. Like that's amazing. So I get inspired that way too.
Right here.
Hi,
hey, Christy. Loved the book. Totally agree that even an extrovert, even a practiced networker has a lot to gain from the book, and I'm excited for the workbook too. Thanks. Haven't seen that one yet. What I wanted to ask you is, as another person who is always looking at, okay, so how can I help this other person? How can those people connect? You had to go through a big transition to letting people help you. And it can be hard to do, actually. So can you talk a little bit about how you did that, what your mindset was on that from the business point of view?
I think that is very true, right? Like it has been a process for me to allow me to have others help me. But I think from the business perspective of it, right, I'm here to build a community, and that means we all work together, we all give, we all take, we all be a part of that. And so I think keeping it focused on the community, if I don't ever take and if I don't ever reach out, it doesn't, I don't know, the relationship goes both ways. And I will benefit and you will benefit, right? I love to give and other people love to give. So when I keep them from giving to me, right, it's not being fair in the relationship.
So since I've been coming here, you are exactly that. It's a match. And I've seen you connect people. In fact, when I bring people here, I always say, meet Christy. She knows everybody, because I know you're going to do that thing that you do when you connect people. So me being a complete extrovert, I work at being organic, because there's a reason why I'm always sitting here, so I don't run through the room and bump into people because I had no idea you were an extrovert.
I'm an introvert.
I'm an introvert. I had no idea, So I work at being organic, you know what I mean? Just letting it happen authentically, because, there's a part of me that is just straight extrovert. Can you talk about, you seem to have mastered the organic part of this. So can you maybe elaborate on the organic of what you do?
I think it's, been a process for me, right? I used to do the 10 business cards. I think for me, as I've shifted it more to relationships, I've taken more of the pressure off of me. I think it's age too, right? I'm older. My focus has shifted a little bit. And so now when I go to an event, if I meet like one or two great people, I'm great with that, right? It's not about the number. It's more about the quality now. And that's what's important to me. But it's been a shift over time. I would say as I was younger, it was more like, I need to meet all the people, all of them. And now I just want to see a little bit of your glimmer in your eye, from a few people. And that's about as much as my introvert can take in as well. Going back to Alex's question, like limiting a bit so that I can be more fully present when I am meeting you instead of focusing on like getting around the room.
Thanks, Christy. Really good talk.
Thanks.
I went to my first Friday Coffee Meetup back in July of 2013, so I can still remember, how far back that goes. And the next person I want to introduce to everyone in this room is who I would call the founder of Friday Coffee Meetup. Yeah. Let's give him a hand.
Woo! Andy Wilson.
Christy, when we started Friday Coffee Meetup, I guess 6 years ago in a small room at Jones's Coffee, it was built around a theory that community can kind of force multiply us. And I think we have extraordinary people in this room, but the connectivity of that community, I think, allows us to all be our best self.
Yeah.
And you're a great example of that, and I appreciate you kind of sharing your experience, but also giving those people who are on that journey a roadmap. So I enjoyed the book. I, like others, need to do the workbook to see if I pass, but you are really a great product of, I think, what was the intention of when this group has started. So thank you for what you've contributed to this group, and I think how you help others with the book you've put together and your know-how. So I want to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Andy. You're the inspiration out there to become the king connector.
Amazing. Okay, you know what time it is.